In my past life, when my father asked me to choose a husband, I selected General Kale, only to end up dying a miserable death by slow slicing. When I was reborn and faced with the same choice, a few lines of text suddenly appeared in the air. Don't choose him. This scumbag already has someone he loves. And he only wants to marry you for power and to usurp the throne. My fingers trembled as I turned to face the cold regal regent Silas. And the text exploded. Choose him. Despite his sharp tone, this old cadet actually sleeps every night hugging your portrait like a true T-boy. Without hesitation, I chose the regent. Later, when I tore off Silas's green tea persona, he pushed me against the desk in the study. His ears flushed but his posture firm. I may be a green tea, but only for you, Your Highness. Openly and unabashedly. Zoe. Come here. My father called me from under the pavilion. Taking a deep breath, I lifted my skirts and walked toward him. On the stone table were 2 portraits. And my heart sank. You've come of age. It's time to choose a suitor. Father set down his teacup gently. Regent Silas and General Kale are both young men I've watched grow up. Today, you must choose one. My eyes wandered between the 2 portraits. Silas's portrait was cold and aloof, his eyes distant. Kale's, on the other hand, was full of heroic spirit, with a familiar, gentle smile playing at the corners of his mouth. In my past life, at this moment, I had chosen Kale without hesitation. Father. I was about to speak when suddenly a translucent line of text floated across the air. Don't choose General Kale. He may seem devoted to you, but he's already attached to someone else. He only pretends to love you because of your royal status. And he actually wants to usurp the throne. Once he succeeds, he'll have you and your father executed in the most cruel way. My pupils contracted, and I nearly knocked over my teacup. I forced myself to calm down and turned my gaze towards Silas's portrait, testing the waters. Sure enough, another line of text appeared. Yes, Kevif Kyo. Yes. Choose him. Don't be fooled by his sharp words. He actually sleeps every night holding your portrait. And the most important thing, he's a green tea boy. How skilled. I nearly laughed out loud. Green tea? The one who always scolded me coldly. Silas? Memories flooded back. In my past life, after I chose Kale, he treated me wonderfully, indulging me even when I threw tantrums. Only when Silas was executed for treason and did Kale reveal his true face. He had secretly kept a woman named Ivy. And even our child had been. Zoe? Father's voice snapped me back to reality. I closed my eyes. And the pain of being dismembered in my past life still seemed to throb in my bones. Opening my eyes, I pointed decisively at Silas's portrait. I choose the regent. Father. Father raised an eyebrow in surprise. But you and Kale are childhood sweethearts. Last time, you said you disliked Silas for always bossing you around. I've grown up. I smiled faintly. The regent is steady and reliable. A fitting match. As soon as I finished speaking, the sound of porcelain shattering came from the distance. I turned around and saw Kale standing behind a column, a spilled tea tray at his feet. His handsome face had drained of color, and disbelief filled his eyes. The text on the screen exploded. Wow. The drama begins. Kale, what about me? I'm Rafiank. Look at Silas. I need to see his reaction. I quietly scanned the surroundings, and, sure enough, saw a familiar dark blue sleeve peeking from behind a rockery. Silas probably hadn't expected me to choose him. Huh? Thinking of his possible expression, I felt a bit pleased. Since it's settled, I'll issue the decree now, Father said, smiling as he patted my hand. Silas may be a bit cold, but he is indeed someone you can rely on. Kale couldn't contain himself any longer. He strode forward and kneeled, eyes full of emotion. Your Majesty, I and Princess Zoe are mutually in love. Please grant us your blessing. I looked on coldly as he performed his little act. In my past life, he had been just as sincere, and I had believed him without question. Kale, Father said with a frown, clearly troubled. But Zoe has already chosen Silas. Zoe. Kale turned to me, his eyes filled with just the right amount of pain. What have I done wrong? You told me. General. Mind your words. I interrupted him coldly. When have I ever had feelings for you? It was only because of father's arrangement that we met a few times. Kale froze. Shocked. The text scrolled through again. Kale's ship has sunk. Kale's little pond is on fire. Waiting for the green tea prince to finish him off. As if responding to the text. Silas stepped out from behind the rockery and bowed. Your Majesty. He paused, then turned his gaze toward Kale. General. You are here as well. His tone was calm. But I caught the fleeting curve of his lips. Could it be that he was really the green tea that the text had suggested? Silas. You've arrived just in time. Father said with a smile. Zoe has chosen you as her consort. Silas's body stiffened for a moment before he quickly regained composure. I'm honored. Your Majesty. I watched his ears slowly redden and felt an unexpected sense of amusement. In this life, I was determined to see just how much of a green tea this seemingly frosty regent really was. Turning my gaze to Kale, my expression turned cold. The grudge from my past life this time. I would make you repay it 100-fold. After the palace banquet, I purposely took a longer route. Sure enough, as I turned the corner under the wisteria arch, a long, bony hand suddenly gripped my wrist and yanked me into the shadows of the palace wall. Zoe, what are you doing? Kale's voice was low, but the anger was unmistakable. I struggled a little, but his grip tight and even more. In my past life, I might have been moved by his forceful actions, but now, I felt nothing but disgust. I raised my eyes to look at him, and the corner of my eye caught a line of text floating through the air. Classic abusive boyfriend move. Tell him you've fallen for someone else. Watch him explode. Kale just came back from his little lover Ivy last night, and hasn't even changed his clothes. My heart skipped a beat, and my gaze instinctively swept to his collar. Sure enough, I spotted a faint trace of lipstick on the collar. Almost imperceptible, but impossible to escape my notice. General, what are you doing? I smiled coldly. Do you really want people to see you overstepping your boundaries? That wouldn't be appropriate. Would it? Kale's expression faltered. Clearly not expecting this reaction from me. He let go of my wrist but still blocked my way with his body. You clearly said you had feelings for me. Why the sudden change of heart? I smoothed the wrinkles in my sleeve and let out a light laugh. General, I think you've misremembered. When did I ever say such a thing? Last month. During the spring hunt. Under the old locust tree. Oh? I interrupted him. What I said at that time was that your archery was impressive. Nothing more. Where is this talk of feelings coming from? Kale's face paled. He certainly remembered. That day, I had indeed only praised his archery skills. It was he who, following the conversation, confessed his feelings. And I, blushing, silently acknowledged it. At just the right moment, the bullet comments flooded in. A classic self-declared love. Kale, was that a big hint I dropped? Well done, princess. Zoe. Kale softened his tone. His eyes, those eyes that once made me lose myself, stirring with ripples. Is someone pressuring you? It's Silas. Isn't it? He's using his position as regent too. General. Be careful with your words. I coldly cut him off. The regent is my father's trusted minister. How dare you slander him? I chose him for. I purposely paused. Then added. He's far more reliable than some people who wear a mask of loyalty. Kale's pupils constricted sharply, as if something had struck a painful spot. I smirked inwardly. Looks like the rumors about Ivy were groundless after all. Princess. My maid Clara hurried in. I caught a sneaky little servant outside the manor. We found this on him. She presented a jade pendant. I took it, and my heart sank. The pendant had the character engraved on it, but the back bore a small inscription, Alka. Where is he? I asked coldly. Here and off. Clara replied. I waved her off and clenched the pendant in my palm. Alka? Ivy. It seemed Kale not only kept a mistress but was so bold as to carve love tokens for her. Princess? Silas's voice brought me back to reality. It's nothing. I forced down my anger and instead asked. Regent. Have you ever heard of a woman named Ivy? Silas furrowed his brow slightly. Is she the lute player at Kale's Manor? I've heard of her. They say she was brought back from the frontier by Kale. The bullet comments came again. Not just brought back. The child's already 3. Ivy's the battle-hard and White Lotus princess. Check the Mingyu villa in the west of the city. A shock ran through me. A child? Were my 2 unborn children from my past life? Perhaps lost because Kale already had an heir? Princess. Are you unwell? Silas's voice carried a subtle concern that I almost missed. I shook my head and asked. Why do you want to marry me? Silas clearly hadn't expected the question. He hesitated for a moment before replying. Princess. You are of noble birth. Both talented and beautiful. To have your favor is my great fortune. Is that the truth? I stared into his eyes. The room fell into an almost unnerving silence. Outside, the wind rustled through the cropple tree. The sound soft and constant. After a long while, Silas spoke quietly. I never lie. He didn't answer directly, but his usually cold eyes now seemed like melting snow. Soft enough to drown someone. My heart skipped a beat. And I quickly averted my gaze. We'll follow your suggestion on the wedding date. I stood and gestured for him to leave. I'm feeling a little tired. Silas bowed and turned to leave, but stopped at the door. Princess. If you like the preserved fruits, I'll bring more tomorrow. He didn't look back, but I saw the tips of his ears turn pink. The bullet comments exploded. He's so smooth. Tomorrow. Tomorrow. How many tomorrows? Isn't this a typical green tea move? I'm already swooning for him. Once he was gone, I immediately called for my trusted guards. Go check out the Mingyu villa in the west of the city. Focus on a woman named Ivy. And check if there's a child involved. The cropple blossoms in the Imperial Garden were in full bloom. I leaned on the pavilion railing, watching Silas seriously report military matters to my father. Today, he wore a dark, blue robe, the jade belt at his waist making his shoulders look broad and his waist slim. As he spoke, his Adam's apple moved with each word, casting a shifting shadow in the sunlight. What are you looking at so intently? Clara eased, a laugh hidden in her voice. I pulled my gaze away and pressed a preserved fruit into her mouth. Mind your own business. The bullet comments popped up once more. Princess looked smitten watching her husband. Silas reported for 10 minutes and stole late glances at the princess. On the surface, serious state affairs. In reality, eager to finish and go on a date. Father finally allowed Silas to leave. As he walked toward me, his pace quickened slightly but slowed deliberately when he was 3 steps away, putting on an air of calm composure. Your Highness. I apologize for the wait, he said, bowing, with ink stains on his cuffs, likely from just leaving the Imperial study. I deliberately stiffened my face. Regent, you have quite the attitude, making me wait for half an hour. Silas's brow furrowed slightly. It was my fault. The Emperor was asking about the defense arrangements for the northern border. Seeing that he was truly trying to explain, I couldn't help but laugh. Just teasing you. State affairs are important. And I'm not one to make a fuss. He visibly relaxed, his tense shoulders softening. I suddenly realized that Silas was always so cautious around me. A stark contrast to his imposing demeanor in the court. The comments on the screen began to roll in. Scared to death thinking his wife was mad. Silas, my wife smiled. Today is a win. Is this not love? Word has it that the Imperial Guard and has recently planted a few western roses. Would the regent care to accompany me to have a look? I rose and brushed the hem of my skirt. Silas immediately took a step forward but restrained himself. Stepping back, it would be an honor. We walked along the flower path at a leisurely pace. He kept a perfect distance, neither too far to seem distant nor too close to be disrespectful. Sunlight filtered through the gaps in the leaves, casting a soft glow on his side profile, highlighting the sharp contours of his face. Regent, aside from state affairs, do you have any hobbies? I picked a begonia and tucked it into my hair. His gaze lingered on my hair for a moment, his throat bobbing slightly. Reading. Practicing martial arts. Occasionally. He paused for a beat. Playing chess. Chess. By yourself? Yes. The answer struck me unexpectedly. In my past life, I only knew that Kale loved to socialize, always dragging me to various banquets. But I never considered what Silas's solitary games of chess might have been like. I'll play chess with you next time. The words escaped my mouth before I could stop them. Silas's steps faltered, and a flicker of surprise flashed across his face before it melted into a faint smile. Your Highness plays chess? Are you underestimating me? I lifted my chin. My father taught me himself. Then I shall wait and see. As he said this, his eyes crinkled at the corners. My heart skipped a beat, and I quickly turned to look at the flowers along the path. The comments exploded. Haha. He smiled. The ice prince melts. I'm dead. These two should just get married already. I'm dying here. Zoe. A familiar voice came from behind. And I stiffened. Kale walked toward us, the sword at his waist clinking with each step, his military attire clearly showing that he had just returned from the training grounds. General. I said coldly. Nodding. Kale's gaze flicked between Silas and me, a mocking smirk curling on his lips. I heard you're admiring the flowers? How elegant. Silas took a step forward, subtly positioning himself between Kale and me. Is there something, General Kale? Nothing. Just wondering if your fiancée is busy with her new admirer. Kale deliberately paused. Oh. Sorry. I meant former fiancée. Did she have something to say? The air instantly thickened. I narrowed my eyes, ready to speak. But Silas beat me to it. Kale. Be careful with your words. The princess is of noble blood, her reputation not to be treated lightly. If any rumors were to spread, his tone remained calm, but each word felt like a blade. It would be bad for everyone. Kale's expression darkened. Silas. You? Kale. I interrupted, my voice sharp. The regent is right. There is nothing between us. And I ask you to be mindful of your language. Nothing between us? Kale scoffed. Last month. You were still. Kale. I snapped at him, my fingers trembling with anger. How dare he tarnish my name in front of everyone? Silas coughed twice, his face pale as he leaned on the pavilion column for support. Your Highness. I'm feeling a bit unwell. My heart skipped a beat, and I immediately went to support him. What's wrong? It's an old injury. Nothing serious. He weakly waved his hand, but as he did, his sleeve slipped back, revealing a scar on his wrist. I recognized it instantly. Last autumn, he had taken an arrow for me during a hunting trip. At the time, he hadn't even flinched. But now, he was sweating from the pain. The comments flooded in. The tea is overflowing. Oscar owes you a golden statue. This move is pure professional. Kale's face grew even darker. Silas. Stop pretending. General. You're mistaken. I looked at him coldly. The regent's injury is from saving me. And the physician advised rest. If something were to happen. I leaned in closer to Silas, pulling out a handkerchief to wipe his forehead. I'd be heartbroken. Silas leaned into me, his lips curling in a barely perceptible smile, his gesture perfectly in line with my own. This man really was a master of hiding his true self. Kale's veins visibly pulsed on his forehead. Fine. Fine. Zoe. You'll regret this. With that, he spun on his heel and stormed off, his boots pounding heavily against the stone ground. Once he was far enough away, Silas immediately recovered. Straightening up. Thank you, Your Highness, for helping me out. I raised an eyebrow. Is your injury all right? It was never serious, he said, maintaining a neutral expression. But seeing Kale so persistent. Regent. You're quite the actor, I said with a playful smile. I never realized you could pretend so well. Silas's ears turned pink, but he responded calmly. I'm simply good at reading the situation. The comments floated by. Reading the situation, knowing how to act in front of his wife. The tea is crystal clear. This man's sweetness is killing me. I couldn't help but laugh. Compared to Kale's shallow sweetness, Silas is bold. Unguarded green tea charm actually made me like him more. As the sun set, Silas insisted on escorting me back to the palace. As we passed through a bamboo grove, he suddenly grabbed my wrist and pulled me behind him. "Who's there?" he called out sharply. His hand already on his sword hilt. The bamboo leaves rustled, and a shadow darted past. Before I could see anything, Silas had drawn his sword and parried the incoming dart with a sharp clang. "Assassins! Protect the princess!" The guards immediately formed a protective circle around us. Another arrow shot through the air, aiming directly at my face. Silas swung his sword, effortlessly knocking it aside. His movements flowing like water. There was no sign of the earlier weakness. When the third arrow came, he let out a grunt, his right shoulder taking the hit. "Silas!" I gasped. He staggered toward me, and I quickly caught him. He was heavier than I expected, and I almost lost my balance. But he subtly steadied me with his left hand on my waist. "Your Highness, be careful." His voice was weak, barely a whisper, but his right hand firmly gripped his sword as he cautiously surveyed the surroundings. The bullet comments flooded the screen. "I'm dying." Pretending to be injured but actually getting injured for real. "This is a win," right into the wife's arms. "It's just a shoulder injury. Why are you panting like that?" The assassin, seeing his strike miss, swiftly retreated. The guards pursued for a short distance, but returned empty-handed. "Call the imperial physician," I said urgently, flustered as I pressed my hand over Silas's wound. Blood oozed through my fingers. "Warm and sticky." Silas weakly shook his head. "Just a superficial wound. It's nothing." Yet he rested his head on my shoulder, his breath grazing my neck with every exhale. It took me a moment to realize what was happening. I was both exasperated and amused. This man, clearly skilled in combat, could have easily avoided the arrow. But instead, he took the hit just for. "Does it hurt?" I asked, deliberately. He blinked, his long lashes casting shadows on his pale face. "Your Highness, a little breath from you, and it won't hurt anymore." I nearly burst out laughing. This wasn't the cold, stoic regent I knew, this was a shameless ease. The bullet comments erupted. 10-10 for T-skills. "Princess, just kiss him already." When the physician arrived, he insisted on taking Silas to the Imperial Medical Hall. Before leaving, he glanced at me with reluctance and whispered, "Tomorrow, may I still bring you more preserved fruits?" I held back a laugh and nodded. "You have my permission." Back in my chambers, I immediately summoned my shadow guards. "Find out the origin of today's assassin." The guards quickly set off. I stood by the window, gazing out at the darkening sky, my thoughts racing. The timing of the assassin's appearance was too perfect. I had just provoked Kale and was attacked right afterward. What are the odds of such a coincidence? Clara hurried in. "Your Highness, someone's been acting suspicious outside the manor. Our men spotted them." "Who?" "It seems like someone from Mingyu Villa." I scoffed. So Ivy couldn't sit still anymore? The show was just beginning. "Your Highness, we have the information," my lead guard Jet said, kneeling and handing me a stack of reports. The rain outside pattered gently, and the candlelight flickered on his stern face. I took the stack of papers, and the first page revealed a map of Mingyu Villa's layout. Next to Ivy's room, a secret chamber was circled in vermilion ink. "Has this place been searched?" I traced the spot with my fingertip. Jet lowered his voice further. The secret room was locked with 3 layers of security. I had to use some methods to get inside. Inside, he paused and pulled a cloth bundle from his chest. "I found this." I unwrapped the cloth, and a baby's embroidered vest with the words "Long Life and Happiness" fell out, followed by several small photographs. The topmost photo showed a boy, around 3 years old, with a round face, big eyes, and a small mole on his lip. He looked exactly like Kale. "Where is the child now?" "He's in a private school on the back mountain of the villa. 2 highly skilled nannies are guarding him day and night." Jet added. "I also found out that Ivy goes to the Great Xianjiuo Temple on the 15th of every month to pray for the child's well-being." I sneered. Pray for his well-being? Kale was off fighting wars. and Ivy had the luxury to pray to the gods. In my past life, when my 2 unborn children died, did anyone pray for them? The bullet comments continued. The child is already this big. Kale is truly despicable. Princess. Don't hold back, tear them apart. Keep watching them. Especially Ivy. I said as I tucked the evidence into a brocade box. Don't alert them. Jet bowed and withdrew. I walked to the window, feeling the rain mist my sleeves. A 3-year-old child. When Kale confessed his feelings to me, the child must have already been calling him father. The fire in my chest almost consumed me. In my past life, when I miscarried, Kale pretended to be heartbroken, but turned around and enjoyed his time with his illegitimate child. Your Highness. Clara's voice called from the door. The regent sent someone to ask if you'd like to go for a spring outing tomorrow, since the weather will clear up. I snapped out of my thoughts and remembered Silas's injury. Has his wound healed? They say it's not serious anymore. They prepared a soft sedan chair to avoid jolting the injury. I couldn't help but smile. This man wasn't content with just being injured now, he was thinking about an outing. Tell him. I've given my permission. The next day, the weather indeed cleared. I changed into a simpler dress and only pinned a jade hairpin into my hair. As I approached the palace gates, I saw Silas in a moon-white robe, standing beside a carriage, a silver fox fur cloak draped over his shoulders, making him appear as slender as bamboo. Your Highness, he greeted, a slight frown knitting his brows, which seemed to strain his wound. I hurried over to him. Your injury isn't fully healed. Why push yourself? It's much better now. He straightened, his gaze falling on my hair. Your Highness, you look beautiful today. He said it so earnestly, but his ears betrayed him. Turning slightly pink, sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting a warm glow on his face and accentuating his sharp features. The bullet comments went wild. Straight to the heart. Silas, compliment machine activated. These two are perfect together. The carriage slowly rolled out of the city gates, with Silas maintaining just the right distance, not too close, but not distant either. His scent, a mix of pine and medicinal herbs, was oddly comforting. Your Highness, look over there. Following his gaze, I saw an expansive meadow, with distant mountains rolling and wildflowers scattered nearby. Several servants were setting up a table under the shade of trees, laying out an assortment of snacks. I heard you like to fly kites, so I prepared one, he said, pulling a delicate swallow-shaped kite from under his seat. I hope it's to your liking. I took the kite, my fingers brushing against his palm. The swallow's wings were intricately patterned and sparkled in the sunlight. I did enjoy flying kites in my past life, but Kale always called it childish and never joined me. You're very thoughtful, Regent, I said softly, after getting out of the carriage. A spring breeze brushed my face, bringing the scent of fresh grass. Silas held the kite for me while I ran a few steps, and the swallow soared into the wind, climbing higher and higher. Give it more string, I called back with a smile. Silas stood not far behind, his gaze gentle. The sunlight bathed him in a golden halo, and his normally tight-lipped expression softened, the corners of his mouth lifting slightly. He seemed like a completely different person, no longer the cold-faced regent in court. The bullet comments erupted. Ha ha ha. Look at the way he looks at her. The iceberg is melting. Ha 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 ha. What kind of divine love is this? When the kite flew to the highest point, Silas appeared behind me with a bouquet of wildflowers, pink and white, tied with a grass stem. I picked these on the way. They're not as precious as the ones in the palace. I took the bouquet, my fingertips accidentally brushing his. He recoiled as it burned but steadied his grip on the stems, clearly worried I might not hold them properly. Thank you, I said, bringing the flowers closer to my nose, inhaling their fragrance. These smell much better than those from the palace. Silas's eyes lit up, as though he had just received the greatest compliment. He was about to say something when a guard hurriedly approached. Your Highness, General Kale requests an audience with the princess. He says there's urgent military business. My smile froze. Kale? How did he find this place? Silas's expression darkened. Tell him that the princess is resting today. Any military matters can be handled by the Ministry of War. But the general mentioned it concerns the northern border. I said. Silas's voice was cold. Any issues can be discussed at tomorrow's court session. The guard hesitated and looked to me. I shook my head. Do as the regent says. Once the guard left, Silas turned toward me. His eyes tinged with apology. I've disturbed your highness's enjoyment. It's nothing. I waved him off. But you, turning Kale down like that, don't you fear he'll hold a grudge? The corners of Silas's lips curved up slightly. For your highness. It's worth it. The words were light, but they landed like a heated ember on my heart, warming me through. The comments on the screen exploded. He's so good. He'd defend the world for his wife. Still not married? On our way back, it started to drizzle. Silas insisted on draping a cloak over my shoulders while he wore only his single layer of clothing. As the carriage bounced along, he subtly shielded me from the wall with his arm, making sure I didn't bump into it. When we passed through the West City Market, a melodious tune floated toward us. I lifted the carriage curtain and saw a veiled woman playing the pipa in front of a tea house, surrounded by a small crowd of listeners. Stop for a moment, I suddenly said. Though her face was covered, I would never forget those eyes. In my last days, it was those very eyes that had looked down on me as I was tortured to death. Ivy. Silas followed my gaze. Do you know her? She looks familiar, I said, lowering the curtain. Let's go. The carriage rolled on, but a cold smile crept onto my face. Ivy daring to show up here, was it coincidence? Or deliberate? It seemed Kale had finally lost his patience. Back in the palace, I immediately and Jet find out about that singer. Especially who she's had contact with today. Jet acknowledged my orders and left. I stood by the window, watching the sky darken, already plotting my next move. In my past life, I had passively suffered. But this time, I would take the initiative. Clara entered with a tray of hot tea. Your Highness. The candied fruit the regent sent. I took the porcelain jar, noticing a note hidden at the bottom. I will enter the palace tomorrow to meet with the emperor. May I invite you to play a game of chess at noon? The handwriting was neat and strong, but the ink smudged at the end, as if he had hesitated before finishing it. I imagined Silas sitting at his desk, carefully considering each word, and couldn't help but smile. Tell the regent I'll be waiting to beat him. The next morning, as I sat before the copper mirror, I instructed the maid to ensure my hair was styled to perfection. Today, the hairstyle must be flawless. Clara stood nearby, holding a jewelry box. Inside was the 9 phoenix and pearl gold hairpin I had specifically chosen, a piece I usually avoided because of its weight, but today, I needed it for effect. Your Highness, are you meeting some important person today? Clara asked curiously. I smiled and replied, I'm hosting a small tea party for some noble ladies. Clara blinked. Then why? Why the extravagant attire? I finished for her, pulling out a brocade box from the bottom of my vanity. Because someone is coming uninvited. Inside the brocade box were the documents Jet had uncovered, letters exchanged between Ivy and Kale, along with a portrait of a child. I ran my fingers over the child's smiling face, an icy rage rising in my chest. In my past life, I had never known this child existed, but now, my own 2 children. Your Highness. Everything is ready, Jet reported softly from outside the door. Are the eyes on her? As you instructed. The invitation was accidentally left at the menu courtyard. I nodded in satisfaction. Someone like Ivy, knowing I was hosting a gathering for noble ladies in the capital, would certainly find a way to slip in. After all, she had benefited the most after Kale's failed proposal. The comments scrolled past. The fishing trap is set. The White Lotus is about to make her appearance. Can't wait for the drama to unfold. Inside the water pavilion, the noble ladies had all arrived. As I entered, they all bowed in unison. I immediately spotted the musician standing in the corner, though veiled. Those eyes were unmistakable. You don't have to be so formal, I said with a smile, raising my hand. I invited you all here today to share some happy news. I paused for effect. letting my gaze fall on Ivy. She leaned forward slightly, the strings of her pipa vibrating just a bit. My marriage to the regent has been set. It will take place on the 8th of next month. The noble ladies all congratulated me. Ivy's fingers whitened, and the outline of her face beneath the veil tightened. I laughed inwardly and continued. The regent has been extremely kind to me. Just a few days ago, he took me outside the city to fly kites. Your Highness is truly fortunate, said the daughter of the Minister of Rights. Smiling. The regent has never been interested in women. But he's different with you. I lowered my head shyly. But from the corner of my eye, I saw Ivy retreating a few steps, whispering something to her attendant. The attendant nodded and left, likely to deliver news. After several rounds of tea, I judged the time was right and stood up. Today, I've invited a new musician. Perhaps she would be kind enough to play a piece for us? All eyes turned to Ivy. She froze for a moment before stepping forward with the pipa. Her voice soft and dripping with sweetness. I am but an amateur. I fear I may offend your noble ears. It's fine. I smiled warmly. I've heard you're skilled at playing Spring River, Flower Moon Night. How about that piece? A flicker of surprise crossed Ivy's eyes. This was indeed her specialty. She gently plucked the strings, and the music poured out like a flowing river. I had to admit, she played beautifully. No wonder Cale had been captivated. As the melody reached its peak, I suddenly spoke. Your skill reminds me of someone. Ivy's fingers faltered on the strings. Your Highness. You jest. I'm but a humble musician. The Ivy from Mingyu Courtyard. Do you know her? The sound of the pipa suddenly stopped. Ivy's eyes, wide beneath her veil, immediately tried to regain composure. I haven't heard of it. Is that so? I took slow, deliberate steps toward her. Then why does your left little finger have a red mole? Just like Ivy's? The room was filled with gasps. Ivy quickly pulled her left hand back, and the pipa fell with a loud thud. Your Highness must have mistaken someone, she said, her voice trembling. I ripped off her veil. Then what is this? Beneath the veil was a familiar face, slender willow brows, cherry red lips, and a tear-shaped mole at the corner of her eye. It was the same face that had smiled the most wickedly when I was being tortured in my previous life. Ivy's face turned pale, and she suddenly slumped as though she was about to collapse. I had anticipated this and quickly grabbed her wrist, fainting just in time. Clara, bring the ice water. A basin of ice water was splashed over her, and Ivy shrieked, finally unable to keep up the act. The noble women began whispering among themselves. And someone recognized her. Isn't she the one Cale keeps outside? That's right. I sneered. The same Ivy. Cale's beloved mistress. Ivy knelt on the ground, soaked through, looking up at me with a pitiful expression. Your Highness. Why do you humiliate me like this? I only admired your grace. That's why I sneaked in. Admire? I leaned down, pinching her chin. You just wanted to see what the woman who stole your man looks like, didn't you? The bullet comments flooded. Fight. Fight. The White Lotus reveals its true colors. Princess is mighty. A flicker of hatred flashed in Ivy's eyes, but it quickly turned into feigned distress. Your Highness has misunderstood. There's nothing between me and Cale. Then whose child is this? I threw the picture at her. Upon seeing the image, Ivy froze as though struck by lightning. She reached out to grab it, but I had anticipated this move and quickly pulled the picture back. Cale's illegitimate son, 3 years old this year, kept in the secret room of Mingyu Villa. Every 15th of the month, you go to the great Xiangjiuo temple to pray for him. Do you need me to keep going? The pavilion fell into complete silence. The noble women stared with wide eyes. This was far more thrilling than any play. Ivy's face drained of color. She suddenly lunged, grabbing my leg. Your Highness. Please spare me. It was Cale who forced me. He said if I helped him win you, he would make me his concubine. I kicked her away in disgust. Now you're blaming Cale? You two are truly made for each other. Zoe. A furious shout came from outside the pavilion. Cale stormed in, followed by a few guards who couldn't hold him back. His face dark, and when he saw Ivy kneeling on the floor, What is the meaning of this? He glared at me. I calmly adjusted my sleeve. General. Barging into my private banquet. What a display of power. Only then did Kale realize his rudeness and hastily gave a salute. I heard someone was bullying an innocent woman. So I came to check. Innocent woman? I sneered. Are you referring to this Ivy? Who sneaked in pretending to be a musician? Or, I spread the picture. This Ivy. Who bore your illegitimate child? Kale's pupils contracted sharply. Where did you? You don't need to know. I interrupted him. I'm simply curious. Kale. You claim to be in love with me. But secretly you've fathered a child. What does that say about you? The noble women gasped in whispers. Kale's face shifted between red and white. And suddenly, he turned and slapped Ivy across the face. Wretch. Who told you to come here? Ivy stumbled back, clutching her face in disbelief. General. You said. Shut up, Kale shouted. I've severed ties with you long ago. And yet you still dare to slander me. The speed at which his demeanor changed left even me in awe. Ivy's look of hurt slowly turned into resentment. And just as she was about to speak, a cold voice cut through the tension. How lively. Silas, who I hadn't noticed before, appeared at the door of the pavilion. Dressed in a dark, blue official robe. It was clear he had just come from the court. He walked calmly to my side. His gaze sweeping over Kale and Ivy before finally resting on me. Your Highness. You've been startled. I shook my head. The regent arrived just in time. I was just introducing Ivy. Kale's. Silas's eyes flashed with a faint smile before he turned to Kale. His tone serious. Kale. As a government official, it is inappropriate for you to keep a mistress. Now you've allowed her to offend the princess. What should be done about this? Kale's forehead veins bulged. Silas. Don't play the good guy here. I'm only speaking fairly. Silas said slowly. But Kale. Your behavior at court has been inappropriate. And your morals have been lacking. Tomorrow's morning court session. I'll have to report this. The bullet comments exploded. The green tea duo has teamed up. Kale, I'm having a rough time. Perfect teamwork. 10-10. Kale's face turned an ashen gray. He suddenly yanked Ivy to her feet. Let's go. Ivy stumbled as he dragged her out. But before they left, she glanced back at me. Her eyes filled with venom. Like a serpent. I smiled back and mouthed silently, we'll play this out slowly. Once they had left, Silas quietly asked, Has your Highness been wronged? No. I looked up at him. Thank you, Regent, for arriving just in time. His lips quirked into a small smile. I was just passing by. Liar. His official robes hadn't even been changed, he clearly came on purpose after receiving word. I felt a warmth in my chest but didn't call him out. The noble women, recognizing the cue, wisely excused themselves. Once the room was empty, Silas suddenly pulled out a small wooden box from his sleeve. For your Highness. To calm your nerves. I opened the box to find a pair of white jade earrings. Shaped like begonia flowers. With tiny rubies set in the center. They were exquisite. I heard your Highness likes begonia flowers. He said softly. I happened upon them. I ran my fingers over the earrings. Suddenly reminded of my past life. I had indeed loved begonias. But Kale always said their blooming period was too short and never gave me any. Silas, however, remembered even such small details. Help me put them on. I turned, lifting my hair. His hands were steady, but his fingertips felt slightly warm. When he brushed against my earlobe, we both unconsciously held our breath. After placing the earrings on, he stepped back a half step, his eyes full of admiration. They suit you perfectly. The sunset outside the pavilion bathed his profile in golden light. Suddenly, I felt that, in this life, maybe things could truly be different. The final bullet comments rolled in. The green tea duo is sealed. Kale doesn't deserve her. Waiting for the next chapter to get even more exciting. The next morning, I was practicing swordplay when Silas's voice rang out beside me. Lower your wrist another 3 inches. He stood behind me, his right hand covering mine, adjusting my posture. Like this? I tilted my head slightly. my nose almost brushing his chin. His Adam's apple bobbed. But he didn't pull away. When striking, be steady, not hasty. I attempted a thrust, the sword tip cutting through the air with a sharp whoosh. This was already the 7th morning of practice. Ever since the assassination attempt, Silas had insisted on teaching me self-defense techniques. You're improving quickly. Silas finally stepped back, admiration in his eyes. Your Highness is very talented. I twirled the sword in my hand, intentionally reflecting the sunlight off the blade into his eyes. The regent teaches well. He raised his hand to shield his eyes from the glare, the corner of his mouth lifting ever so slightly. If the court officials saw this expression, they'd probably drop their jaws. Cold-faced regent actually smiling? The comments exploded on the screen. Haha. The master-disciple play. Silas. Where are you putting your hand? Why isn't this a kiss yet? I'm dying. One more time. Silas's face returned to its serious expression. This time, I'll attack and you defend. He swung a wooden sword toward me, deliberately slowing his movements. I blocked as he had taught me, the swords clashing with a crisp clack. After a few rounds, I started to get the hang of it, even managing a counterattack or two. Well done, Silas said, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. Try to go faster. He increased his pace, and I began to struggle, my movements growing more strained. In a misstep, he flicked my sword away, the wooden blade coming to a halt just an inch from my throat. You lose, he said in a low voice. I suddenly grabbed his collar, yanking him forward. Silas stumbled, caught off guard. Seizing the opportunity, I spun around and pinned him against the locust tree, taking his wooden sword. Now? I smiled, pressing the sword against his throat. Silas's pupils dilated, his breath quickening. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting dappled shadows on his face, outlining his sharp features. We were so close I could almost count his eyelashes. I concede, he rasped. It was then that I noticed how intimate our position was. Embarrassed, I quickly stepped back, only to catch a glimpse of a scar on his neck, exposed by my tugging at his collar, long and jagged, clearly a sword wound. This. I trailed off, shocked. Silas quickly adjusted his collar. It's an old injury. It's nothing. My heart skipped a beat. The direction of the scar was unmistakable. It was from last autumn's hunting trip, caused by Kale's sword. At the time, Kale had claimed it was an accident from a tree branch. Could it really have been? Your Highness. Clara rushed over. Her voice panicked. It's bad. The whole capital is talking. She glanced at Silas, hesitating to speak. Say it, I said, my expression darkening. They're saying that you and the regent broke protocol before marriage, and someone saw you. Clara's voice trailed off. I sneered. Saw what? Saw us practicing swordplay? Well. Clara blushed, making a hugging gesture. Silas's face went pale. Who is spreading these rumors? It's. Clara lowered her head. It's coming from Kale's residence. I gripped the wooden sword tightly, my knuckles turning white. Kale, you're asking for death. The comments were scrolling wildly. Kale is digging his own grave. 80 progress. Rumors stop with the wise. But the wise want to punch someone. Princess. Go tear him apart. To the palace. I threw the wooden sword down. The emperor is testing the princes on archery today. I'll go join in the fun. In the imperial garden, father was watching several of my brothers shoot arrows. I changed into my riding attire, deliberately choosing a hard bow. Zoe. You're here too? Father smiled, waving at me. You've never been fond of these things. I've recently picked up a bit of skill, and wanted to ask father for some guidance. I said, drawing the bow and releasing an arrow that hit the bullseye. Father raised an eyebrow in surprise. Good shot. Who taught you? I glanced at Kale, who had just arrived, and raised my voice deliberately. The regent taught me. He's skilled in both literature and martial arts, and teaches very well. Kale's expression darkened instantly. I continued, not just archery, but swordplay as well. He even praised my progress this morning. Father nodded with approval. Silas really puts in the effort. Kale couldn't hold back any longer. Your Highness. Being from a noble family, practicing martial arts is a bit beneath your station. Moreover, men and women are different. If this gets out, it will damage your reputation. General. You're mistaken. I interrupted him. The regent is a pride and teaches skills that could save one's life. As for some people, they're the ones spreading filthy rumors behind closed doors. I deliberately cast a pointed look at him. Kale's face turned ashen. What do you mean by that, Your Highness? You know exactly what I mean. General. I pulled back the bow. The tip of the arrow aimed, almost carelessly, at him. Rumors stop with the wise. But they stop with the dead too. The arrow flew, grazing Kale's ear and embedding itself in the target behind him. The entire field fell silent. The comments exploded. Haha. Princess Sale evil move. Kale almost died. That arrow pierced my heart. Father laughed heartily. Good. You have my style from back in the day. He clapped me on the shoulder. Silas thought well. I'll reward him handsomely. Kale stood aside, the hatred in his eyes almost palpable. I smiled back, silently mouthing to him, this is just the beginning. On the way back to the estate, Clara spoke in a low voice. Your Highness. We've heard that Ivy has been frequenting a drug shop in the western part of the city. A drug shop? They say she's buying sedatives. But our people found that she secretly bought something else. Clara handed me a note. I unfolded it, and on it were the names of several poisonous substances. Very good. I sneered. Keep watching her. But don't alert her. As I stepped through the estate gates, a sweet, fruity scent filled the air. Silas was sitting in the flower hall, a plate of fresh lychees before him. From His Majesty. He stood and bowed. He said it was a reward for my good teaching. I couldn't help but chuckle. Father certainly keeps an eye on things. Silas peeled a lychee and handed it to me. Your performance in the Imperial Garden today has already spread throughout the capital. I leaned in and bit into the lychee from his hand, deliberately brushing my lips over his fingertips. Silas froze, his ears turning visibly red. Is it sweet? His voice was strained. Sweet. I licked my lips. But, not as sweet as the candied fruits the regent makes. I winked at him. Silas's lashes trembled, and then he murmured softly, and I'll make some tomorrow and bring them to you. The comments went wild. He's so smooth. What kind of wolfish words are these? The lychee is sweeter than you. Just as we were laughing, Jet rushed in. Your Highness. Ivy has disguised herself and gone to a house in the western part of the city. Our people followed her inside and found. He glanced at Silas. Spit it out. I said. I found Kale inside, speaking with Ivy for a long time. Ivy handed him a packet of something. Silas and I exchanged a glance, both thinking of the same poisonous substances. Prepare the carriage. I stood up. I'm going to meet the Selka. Silas pressed his hand over mine. It's too dangerous. Don't worry. I patted his hand reassuringly. I'll be cautious. His brows furrowed. And suddenly, he pulled out a small silver whistle from his sleeve. Take this. If you're in danger, blow it. And my men will be on standby. I took the whistle, my heart warming. If only I had someone like this in my previous life. Things might have been different. Your Highness. Please be careful. Silas said, his eyes full of concern. Kale. I know. I gently interrupted. In this life, I won't make the same mistakes again. As soon as I said it, I regretted it. Sure enough. Silas's eyes sharpened. Same mistakes? I quickly changed the subject. I meant, I won't be deceived by him again. It's getting late. I must go. As I turned to leave, I felt Silas's gaze follow me. Like a shadow. Outside my new villa, I had changed into a maid's attire and wore a veil, blending in with the crowd. Jet pointed to a small, delicate building not far away. Ivy's in there. Kale just left. What about the child? In the backyard, under the watch of 2 nannies. I nodded and made my way around to the side of the building. Through the half-open window, I saw Ivy packing a bundle, with several packets of medicine sticking out. Move faster. She spoke into the air. It has to be delivered to the general's residence tonight. A maid nervously asked. Miss, cutting fulfilled my sigh. Is this medicine really safe? Ivy sneered. What's there to be afraid of? It's not the first time. She gently rubbed her stomach. The last 2 brats were gone the same way. Weren't they? My blood froze in an instant. The last 2. My children? The bullet comments exploded. Holy crap. She admitted it. Princess. Stay calm. Why isn't she killing her? What's she waiting for? I clenched my palm so tightly it hurt, forcing myself to resist the urge to rush in. Ivy continued. This time, it's the wedding wine for the princess. A spiked cap will be placed in front of her. On the wedding night. She chuckled softly. The regent will be left crying over a corpse. The maid shook even more violently. But what if they find out? Even if they do, it'll be Kale's doing, Ivy said carelessly. He provided the medicine. He came up with the plan. What does it have to do with me? I quietly stepped back, my heart pounding. So that's how I lost my children in the previous life. Kale. Ivy, your hearts are truly poisonous. Back in the carriage, I immediately ordered. To the general's residence. When Kale saw me, he was visibly startled. Your Highness. What's with this disguise? I took off my veil. Eyes red. Kale. I regret it. A flash of surprise crossed his face. Then quickly turned to wild joy. Zoe? Silas. I deliberately choked up. He never loved me. He just wanted my status. Today, I happened to see his study. I covered my face. It was filled with portraits of other women. Kale stepped forward to embrace me. But I turned away. No. Someone might see us. Then, let's go somewhere quiet to talk, he said eagerly. I know a place. Perfect? I pretended to hesitate. Then nodded and followed him into the carriage. The carriage took a winding route, eventually stopping in front of an abandoned hunting lodge. Kale got out first, and I followed closely behind, my hand still resting on the dagger in my sleeve. This is safe. Kale turned around, his eyes gleaming with a strange light. We can talk properly. Talk about what? I took half a step back. About you poisoning the wedding wine? Or about how you killed my unborn children? Kale's face changed drastically. You. How did you know? He suddenly grinned maliciously. Doesn't matter. You won't live past today anyway. He lunged at me. But I was prepared. I pulled out the dagger and slashed at his arm. Kale staggered back in pain, but quickly retaliated, grabbing my throat and slamming me against the wall. Born again. And you're still this foolish. He whispered in my ear. In my last life. You died too quickly. This time, I'll enjoy playing with you. My heart sank. He was reborn too? The bullet comments went wild. Holy crap. Dual rebirth. Princess. Blow the whistle. Silas. Where are you? You came back too? I gasped. Surprised. Kale tightened his grip. Last time, when you died, I could have taken the throne without a problem. But Silas's old forces caused chaos. And I ended up being torn apart by horses. Now that we're back, I'll make sure to eliminate you first. As he spoke, I secretly pulled out the silver whistle and blew it with all my strength. The sharp sound sliced through the air. Kale, enraged, slapped me. Bitch. Everything went black. And a metallic taste filled my mouth. He dragged me by the hair toward the door. Let's go somewhere else and talk. Just then, the door of the hunting lodge was kicked open. Silas stood there, sword in hand, with a squad of guards behind him. Let her go. His voice was as cold as ice. Kale immediately placed me in front of him, pressing a dagger to my throat. If you come any closer, I'll kill her. Silas stopped, his eyes filled with murderous intent. What do you want? Simple. Kale sneered. First, let me leave safely. Second, he leaned in close to my ear. Tell me, how did you make Zoe fall so deeply for you? Last life. She loved me. Silas's brow furrowed. Last life? Don't play dumb. Kale shouted. You've been reborn. Haven't you? How else would you have arranged everything in advance? I froze. Silas was reborn too? The bullet comments flooded. Triple rebirth? This plot is unreal. So much information. Silas remained calm. I don't know what you're talking about. Let Zoe go. And I'll let you go. Stop lying. Kale tight and the dagger. And I felt a sharp pain in my neck. Blood trickling down. Last life. You pleaded for Zoe. But when I executed you publicly, you didn't even blink. How could someone so devoted not be reborn? My body shook. Silas died for me in his previous life? A flicker of emotion passed through Silas's eyes before he said slowly. Yes, I did fulfill my obsession. I was reborn. He lowered his sword. So I know that Ivy wasn't actually pregnant. She lied to you. What? Kale's hand trembled. She bribed a doctor to fake the pregnancy. Just to trap you. Silas continued. The child wasn't yours. It was hers and the musician's. Kale flew into a rage. You're lying. Don't believe me? Silas sneered. Go find out where that musician is. See if he suddenly dropped dead. Kale faltered. And I seized the moment of his hesitation, lunging backward and slamming into his nose. Kale recoiled in pain, loosening his grip. I broke free, having fulfilled my obsession. But he kicked me in the back, sending me crashing to the ground. Bitch. Kale raised the knife to strike. At the critical moment, a flash of sword light sliced through the air. Kale let out a scream. His sword arm severed at the wrist. Silas shielded me behind him, the tip of his sword dripping with blood. Kill him. I screamed hoarsely. But Kale suddenly threw a smoke bomb. And by the time the smoke cleared, he had vanished without a trace. Chase him. Silas ordered the Imperial Guards. Then turned to help me up. Are you hurt? I shook my head, urgently asking. What you said earlier. Is it true? You've been reborn too? Silas paused for a moment. Then quietly replied. No. I was just extracting information from him. He wiped the blood from my neck. But what he said was true. In my past life, I threw myself into his arms. Trembling. The Silas from my previous life. The one who always stood behind me and died for me in the end. Had always been there. The comments scrolling by. Woo woo woo. My heart is breaking. How are they not together yet? Kale must die. Does it hurt? Silas's fingertips gently brushed the wound on my neck. The ointment was cool, but it couldn't compare to the heat in his eyes that made my heart burn. Ever since escaping the hunting lodge, he hadn't left my side for a moment. It's just a small injury. I grasped his hand, compared to the last time. Before I could finish, Clara rushed in. Your Highness. Ivy requests an audience. Silas and I exchanged a look. What does she want? She says. She has something important to tell you. Clara handed me a letter. And she also gave this. I opened the letter. There was only one line of text. Kale plans to stage a coup on the day of the wedding. Bring her in. I sneered. Let's see what game she's playing. When Ivy entered, I almost didn't recognize her. Her eyes were swollen from crying. Her clothes were disheveled. And as soon as she saw me, she collapsed to the ground. Your Highness. Please save me. Oh? I calmly sipped my tea. What happened to Alka? Kale. Ivy sobbed, her tears flowing like rain. He wants to kill me to keep me quiet. I had no choice but to come to you for protection. She crawled a few steps forward, holding out a stack of documents. These are the evidence of his treason. Please. Your Highness. For the sake of past ties. Ties? I interrupted her. What ties? Is it the tie where you caused the death of my child? Or the tie where you poisoned the wedding wine? Ivy's face turned as white as a sheet. Your Highness. I didn't know. Didn't know? I slammed my hand on the table. Kale confessed it himself in the hunting lodge. You've been reborn too. Haven't you? Was it not enough to torment me in the last life? And now you want to do it all over again? Ivy trembled. No. It's not like that. Suddenly, she lunged forward, wrapping her arms around my legs. It was Kale. He said if he could get rid of you, he would make me his empress. I kicked her away in disgust. I'll take the evidence. You can leave now, Your Highness. Ivy looked up in horror. You can't do this. Kale will kill me. And what does that have to do with me? I sneered. Guards. Escort her out. As Ivy was dragged away, she screamed. Zoe. You'll regret this. I know your secret. I know you've been reborn. Her voice was suddenly cut off. My heart skipped a beat. And I looked at Silas. What did she just say? Silas's expression darkened. It seems she knows about Your Highness's rebirth. He turned to Clara. Go investigate who she's been in contact with recently. Clara left to carry out the orders. I scanned through the documents Ivy had brought. And the more I read, the more I felt a chill running down my spine. Kale had secretly assembled 30,000 border troops, waiting just outside the capital. We need to report this to Father immediately. I stood up. Wait. Silas placed a hand on mine. The timing of this evidence is too perfect. Why did Ivy suddenly betray Kale? I calmed myself. You mean? It could be a feint. Silas said in a low voice. I'll send people to investigate Ivy's background. Just as he finished speaking, Jet rushed in. Your Highness. Lord Silas. We found something. Ivy is no ordinary commoner. She's a spy sent by the Northern D. My heart stopped. What? This was found in the secret room of the Mingyu retreat. Jet presented a letter. It bears the seal of the Northern D royal family. I unfolded the letter, which detailed how Ivy had approached Kale, sowed discord between him and the royal family, and ultimately helped plan the Northern D invasion. At the end of the letter was a shocking revelation. Ivy wasn't the first time she had carried out such a mission 10 years ago. She had successfully sowed discord between a royal couple. 10 years ago. I suddenly remembered. Wasn't that the case of Father's cousin, the Duke of Su? Silas nodded. The Duke of Su's rebellion failed, and his entire family was executed. It said that the cause was the Duchess's infidelity. And the lover? I finished his sentence. Suddenly, everything clicked. Ivy was the Duchess, from back then. She didn't die, she changed her appearance, and came back. The comments went wild. What a long gone. This woman is terrifying. Kale got played so badly. Head to the palace immediately. I grabbed the evidence. Father must know this. In the Imperial study. After Father read through all the evidence, his face dark and like iron. Kale. Ivy. Father. Kale has already mobilized the border troops. A coup could happen at any moment, I said urgently. We need to prepare. Father looked at Silas. What do you think, my dear minister? Silas replied in a deep voice. We should turn the tables on them. Announce that the wedding is postponed, while secretly mobilizing the Imperial guards for an ambush. When Kale makes his move, we'll trap him completely. Father nodded. Do it. Leaving the Imperial study, I grabbed Silas's sleeve. Did you know Ivy was a spy all along? I only suspected, Silas whispered. Her timing was too perfect. And her methods too familiar. He paused. And? After Kale's usurpation in the previous life, the Northern D did indeed launch a large-scale invasion. A pained expression flashed in Silas's eyes. I suspected there was something fishy. But I didn't have time to investigate before. I clenched his hand. This time, we won't repeat the same mistakes. That night, the capital was under martial law. I stood on the city tower, watching as the Imperial guards silently set up their defenses. Silas, clad in military attire, walked toward me like a war god under the moonlight. Kale has already noticed. He whispered. I just received word he's launched the coup ahead of schedule. My heart tightened. When? Now. As if answering his words, the sound of horns suddenly rang out from outside the city. A black tide of soldiers surged forward, torches lighting up the sky. Prepare for battle. Silas shouted. I gripped the sword at my waist, my heart pounding like thunder. This battle would determine everyone's fate. The comments scrolled by. The final battle is here. Princess. You have to win. Go green TCP. Arrows fell like rain. and I swung my sword to deflect one that flew too close. The sounds of battle filled my ears, shouts of bloodshed and the clash of weapons. Kale's rebels had breached the outer city and were now clashing with the Imperial Guard at the palace gates. Your Highness. Retreat. Silas shielded me from the chaos, thrusting his sword into the chest of a rebel who charged at us. I'm fine. I gritted my teeth. What about my father? He has already been safely moved to the secret chamber. Silas pulled me behind a pillar. Kale himself is leading the assault on the east to a gate. We must hold this position. I nodded, but suddenly I caught sight of a familiar figure, Ivy. She was dressed as a palace maid and was sneaking towards the inner palace. Ivy is heading to the inner palace, I said urgently. She must be going to assassinate my father. Silas immediately ordered a squad of guards to follow. I'll pursue Kale. Stay alert. I led Jet and a few guards in pursuit of Ivy. She was nimble and elusive, weaving through the palace grounds and managing to shake most of our pursuers. Finally, I cornered her by the artificial hill in the Imperial Garden. Ivy! I shouted. She turned. Her face no longer the delicate, frail woman it once was, only a twisted sneer remained. Zoe! She drew a dagger. You've ruined my plan. Your plan? I scoffed. You mean the Northern Eyes plan, don't you? Ivy's pupils constricted. You. I know who you are. I slowly advanced. 10 years ago. You killed the entire family of Prince Sue, posing as the princess. Now. You want to kill my father? You know, too late. Ivy suddenly lunged at me. I dodged, and we engaged in a fierce struggle. Her strikes were vicious and precise. Each blow meant to kill, showing she had received professional training. After several rounds, I began to falter, a cut opening on my arm. Die. Ivy raised her dagger high, aiming for a fatal strike. At the last moment, a flash of steel cut through the air. Ivy screamed as her dagger fell to the ground, her wrist bleeding profusely. How dare you touch her? Kale's voice came from the shadows. He strode forward, and in a single motion, plunged his sword through Ivy's chest. You. Ivy's eyes wide and in disbelief. Why? You bitch. Kale sneered. You dare deceive me? The child wasn't mine. It was yours and the musician's. Ivy's lips bled, but she suddenly smiled. Yes. But you'll never know who the musician is. With a final tilt of her head, she breathed her last. Kale withdrew his sword, turning to face me. Now. It's your turn. I stepped back, but I found no escape. Kale's face was bloodied, his expression wild. Zoe. We were meant to be husband and wife. This time, I will have you. Dream on. I grabbed a handful of dirt from the ground and threw it into his eyes. Kale roared in fury, swinging his sword wildly. I seized the opportunity to strike at his abdomen, but he deflected my blow. Just as I was about to be struck down, a figure flew in. Kale. Silas arrived, sword raised. The two clashed fiercely, their swords flashing like lightning. Kale grew fiercer with each strike, and then, with a feint, he tricked Silas, thrusting his sword straight at his throat. No, I cried, throwing myself in front of Silas. Kale's sword plunged into my shoulder. As he stood frozen, stunned by his own actions, Silas's sword pierced his heart. You. Kale looked down at the blade in his chest, then back at me. You actually. For him. Silas pulled out his sword, and Kale collapsed, his body hitting the ground with a heavy thud. His eyes burned with unyielding hatred. The comments exploded on the screen. He's finally dead. The princess is hurt. Oh no. The green teacup is too touching. Zoe. Silas caught me as I swayed, his voice trembling. Are you okay? It's nothing. I forced a smile. Just a flesh wound. Cheers rang out in the distance. The rebels had been wiped out, and the Imperial Guard had won a great victory. 3 days later, my father announced Kale's crimes in court, while also commending Silas for his defense of the royal family. My injuries were healing, but I still needed rest. Your Highness. Silas entered with a bowl of medicine. It's time for your medicine. I frowned. It's bitter. I've prepared candied fruit. He pulled out a small bag from his sleeve. Freshly made. I couldn't help but smile. I obediently drank the medicine, sucking on a piece of candied fruit. The sweetness dulled the bitterness. Just as Silas always seemed to brighten the darkness in my life. Silas. I suddenly called him. Yes? I need to talk to you. I took a deep breath. About the rebirth. Silas gently placed a finger on my lips. There's no need to say it. I've known all along. What? Your unusual wariness towards Kale. Your foresight with Ivy. And. He smiled faintly. Occasionally speaking to the air. My face flushed. So. You. I only know. He said softly. That in this life. Your Highness has chosen me. That is already the greatest blessing. His eyes were full of tenderness. As for everything else. It doesn't matter. My heart warmed. And I pulled a small box from beneath my pillow. For you. Silas opened the box to reveal a pair of jade hairpins matching the earrings he had given me. Wear them on our wedding day, I whispered. Is that all right? He accepted them reverently. It's my honor. A month later. Our wedding was held with grandeur. No poison wine. No schemes, only flowers raining down and the blessings of the city. On our wedding night. Silas carefully lifted my veil. His eyes sparkling like stars. Lady. He whispered. And the word made my heart flutter. Lord. I responded, reaching to touch his face. I have something to show you. I led him to the study, opening a secret compartment to reveal treasured items, Kale's token, a piece of Ivy's clothing, and embroidered portraits of the 2 unborn children I had lost in my past life. This is my past, I whispered. My hatred. My regret. Silas gazed at the items. Then suddenly turned and retrieved a brocade box from the cabinet. Coincidentally. I also have something to show you. Inside the box were a silk handkerchief, a broken hairpin, and several small portraits items from my previous life. Things I had unknowingly left behind. At the bottom was a yellow letter, which read, I, Silas, swear on my life that Princess Zoe is innocent. It was the memorial he wrote for me in my past life, a document that ultimately became his death sentence. You. I choked. Unable to speak. Silas gently embraced me. It's all in the past now. In this life. We'll have our own children. Our own home. Our own future. I rested my head on his shoulder. My tears soaking his clothes. In a daze. I saw the last line of comments appear in the air. May you be happy. Goodbye. May you grow old together. The comments faded. As though their mission had been fulfilled. I knew that from now on. We no longer needed guidance, just each other. Outside the window. The bright moon hung high, casting its gentle light across the land. End of story. Aton's savior had arrived. On the day of our wedding. He had to personally take the person to the hospital. When he came back, he said, Ivy, give Lily your acceptance letter. I'll marry you. She's kind-hearted. She's more suited to be a doctor than you. I chose to leave. He said. Don't mind her. She's just acting childish. A little coaxing will be fine. When Lily and I fell into the water at the same time, he didn't hesitate to abandon me. What he didn't know was, that person was right there at the wedding, waiting for me to nod. I fan. It ends here. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in 1983. At the modest wedding between Ethan and me. He looked troubled. Ivy, the wedding is paused. I need to take Lily to the hospital first. With red eyes. I choked. Why does it have to be you? Isn't there anyone else around her? He stared at me in disbelief. Ivy. Lily broke her bone trying to save me. She's now burning with a fever, asking for my help. I can't refuse. My face turned pale. It was the same in the last life. On our wedding night. He spent the whole night at the hospital with Lily. I was left alone in the empty room. Becoming the joke of the entire village. And now. Here we are again. What am I expecting? Seeing that I didn't stop him. His expression visibly relaxed. Today's not a good day. Let's make it up in a few days. Okay? But today. This was the day my grandmother had carefully chosen before her death. How could he forget? I closed my eyes in resignation. Go ahead. I'll wait for you here. This is the day my grandmother selected herself. She said she would come to witness my happiness today. A flicker of confusion passed across his face as he stared at me. Nodding absentmindedly. I emphasized again. I'll wait for you. As he left, he instinctively looked back at me with a hint of unease. Pressing his lips together. Ethan and I were childhood sweethearts. Growing up together. At 5. He held my hand and said to a group of adults, I'm going to take my sister home. At 14. When I got my first period and stained my pants. He blushed and took off his jacket, wrapping it around my waist. At 18. When I failed the college entrance exam. He comforted me. We'll get married. I'll go to school with you. But all that changed when his lifesaver, Lily, appeared. From this day on, he would secretly intercept the staff bringing me my acceptance letter halfway, and go to college with Lily. He would still marry me. He would let me stay home, taking care of the family. He would tell me, Ivy, my life is a mess without you. He would say, I want 4 children to boys. 2 girls. As long as you give birth, I can support them all. I listened. In the previous life, I worked tirelessly until old age. When it came time, I discovered that his safe deposit box held the envelope with my acceptance letter from years ago. I waited from dawn to dusk, sitting silently at the center of the wedding banquet, tears falling without a sound. I cried for my ignorance, for my unwillingness to accept, and for realizing too late the absurdity of my life. My parents, sister, and brother sat beside me, faces dark with anger, accompanying me from dawn till dusk. Until the next morning. Ethan came back, carefully supporting Lily, who was holding a cane. Yesterday's uncles and aunts who attended the wedding had all come early today. Ethan opened the door and was surprised to see the crowd. Why is everyone here so early? My mother glared. It's not early. We've been waiting all night. He froze for a moment, looking at me with an awkward expression. Before he could speak, Lily, standing beside him, suddenly grabbed her leg. It's all my fault. My leg's infected, and I have a fever. I had to rush to the hospital. Because of that, Ethan's wedding didn't happen. Sis. Don't blame Ethan. We delayed a little because my leg was inconvenient. Ethan helped me with my acceptance letter to the medical school. The crowd congratulated them. Oh my. Another college student. Such a perfect match. If it weren't for Ethan and Ivy already being engaged, this pair. Even Ethan's mother couldn't help but smile at this remark. Back in the 80s, only 1 in 100 could attend college in rural towns. Ethan and I, having just graduated from high school, hadn't been accepted last year. My parents felt sorry for me and supported me in repeating the year with Ethan. This year, we tried again. Not long ago, we went to the county for the political review and medical exams. Ethan's acceptance letter arrived, but mine was still delayed. The result was obvious. I probably didn't get in. In this situation, he said, Ivy, whether you get in or not, I'll love you for life. He said, don't worry. If you feel insecure, we can get married first. Fool. The date is already set. Am I the kind of person who would abandon my childhood sweetheart just because I get into college? You really underestimate me. Ethan. Whether you get in or not, we'll be together. Amid the congratulations, I turned my stiff head and looked directly at Lily. Can I see your acceptance letter? Ethan and Lily froze. My letter hasn't arrived yet. I might not have passed. I just wanted to see. Ethan awkwardly replied. Didn't you already see mine? I lowered my gaze. I heard Lily and I applied to the same school. They were suddenly silent. Ethan said, stop joking. Lily quickly changed the subject. Ethan, I'm a little thirsty. Can I have some water? Ethan replied, how can this be your fault? Ivy, go pour some water for her. The air froze for a moment. Someone murmured, on such a joyful day, the bride is pouring water for someone else. Upon hearing this, Ethan stiffened. He looked at me, his eyes hinting at impatience and disapproval. In the past, Whenever this happened, I would always say it was my choice. Just like how I voluntarily gave up repeating my studies after not getting into college. Or how I chose to stay home as a full-time housewife after getting pregnant. Or how I willingly watched my husband travel abroad with the woman who replaced me. I slowly stood up, took the water cup on the table, and handed it to Lily. The surroundings instantly went quiet. But the next second, the hand that was about to grab the cup slid down. The cup fell directly onto her injured leg. Lily cried out in pain. Ethan panicked. Did you do that on purpose? His eyes were full of concern as he softly asked, Are you okay? Lily weakly held his hand. I'm fine. The cup just fell on the ground. Only a little bit splashed on me. Fortunately, it wasn't hot water. It's just that it's not right for sis to act like this. I didn't show her the acceptance letter. And she let out a low sigh. Ethan's face changed. He grabbed my hand forcefully. Apologize. I crashed hard onto the ground. The bright red gown was instantly smeared with dirt. The hum of chatter around us seemed to vanish all at once. He had never treated me like this before. He said, Ivy, you never need to apologize to me. And now, standing before him in this pathetic state, I could only smile bitterly. Beside him, Lily tugged gently at his sleeve like a timid wife. Her voice was soft, almost pleading. Forget it. Efron, Ethan. I'm fine. But Ethan wasn't listening at all. How could you be so unreasonable? Lily's still injured. She's my benefactor, our benefactor. Ivy, Adele. What right do you have to throw a tantrum? Yes. In his eyes. Waiting for him all night and through the next morning must have made me live desperate hungry to marry him. Any guilt he might have felt for making me wait too long was soon replaced by the vanity of knowing a woman had waited for him at all. My eyes stung. What if I refuse? Sensing my distance, Efron's eyes reddened. Then we won't get married for now. Lily saved my life if my wife turns out to be ungrateful. It felt as though someone had gouged a hollow, endless bit in my chest. I could barely stay on my feet. Before fainting, I heard Lily's startled cry. Efron, Ethan. Aren't you going to check on Ivy? His impatient voice followed. Sharp and cold. She's always been like this, moody since childhood. Whenever she's upset, she pretends to faint. Let her go home and calm down for a few days. Lily. Don't move around. Be careful with your leg. The wedding was put on hold. My parents brought me home. Before I even opened my eyes, I heard them sighing beside my bed. Then, let out a low sigh. From the window came 3 short knocks, an old signal. A folded note was thrown in. I opened it. Everything's been taken care of. Remember your promise. A bitter smile tugged at my lips as I tore the note to shreds. After that day, the wedding was cancelled, and our families stopped visiting each other. Relatives came one after another, trying to talk sense into us. Ethan's going to college. He'll have a guaranteed city job after graduation. Ivy, if you ruin this marriage now, you'll regret it when it's too late. Sometimes, I'd hear movement outside the wall to people walking together, murmuring softly. Lily. Careful, it's slippery after the rain. And then Lily's feigned surprise. This is Ivy's house. Isn't it? I heard she's been bedridden. Should we go see her? A deliberately loud voice answered. No need. I set down my pen, folded the page I'd been writing, took my bamboo basket, and stepped outside. It had been raining for days. There must be plenty of fresh mushrooms in the hills behind the village. I had barely half filled the basket when Lily appeared, blocking my way. Her right leg was still bandaged thickly, yet she climbed the slope as if nothing were wrong. You've got the nerve to come out? If I were you, a band and on your wedding day, I'd have hung myself by now. I glanced at her leg. If I were you, stealing what isn't mine and still feeling proud about it, I wouldn't dare show my face. Lily sneered. Ivy. You really are your shameless grandmother's granddaughter, just as indecent as she was. Your grandfather chose my grandmother. Didn't he? So what if your grandmother's marriage was arranged? That's old news. Isn't it funny? History repeating itself. You and Ethan, any fool can see he and I are the perfect match. Yet you just won't let go. The mention of my grandmother made my blood boil. Shut up. She only looked more triumphant. Childhood sweethearts? So what? What's not yours will never be yours. Do you even deserve to fight me for him? Before she passed, my grandmother had clasped my hand and said softly, "My sweet girl, you'll go to college one day. You'll see the city. See the world I never could." She worried for me even as she left this world. I would never allow anyone to insult her. I raised my hand and slapped Lily across the face. She covered her cheek, tears spilling down immediately. And as expected, Ethan's voice came from behind me. "Ivy, what are you doing to Lily?" Lily's eyes gleamed. Her plan had worked. I let out a cold laugh. "You and your grandmother are the same, always taking what belongs to someone else." Her eyes went wide. "What did you say?" She grabbed my arm, demanding an answer. But in her panic, her pull threw me off balance and sent me tumbling into the river. The water wasn't deep, but the rain had made the current fierce. I lost my footing and plunged under. Instinctively, I caught her arm, dragging her down with me. Ethan came running. The current pulled me downstream, while Lily, in her panic, slammed into a rock midstream. Ethan looked from me to her. Just beyond me was a small waterfall. Lily clung desperately to the rock. I fin. Unscared. The water swallowed her chin, her nose, her eyes. Then she cried out again. "My leg, it hurts. It hurts so much." Her screams for help echoed as he turned decisively and swam toward Lily. I closed my eyes. The river seized me, dragging me over the fall. I hugged my knees, trying to stay afloat. But the current pinned me down. My body struck jagged stones beneath the surface. I coughed, choking on mouthfuls of muddy water. My lungs burned. The rain had muddied the river to an opaque brown. Half blind, I kicked forward, searching for air. Through the blur, I saw something ahead, a log. I forced myself toward it. Almost there. Wait. Why was it warm? The next moment, my arm was seized and lifted. Strong hands slid beneath my arms and across my chest. "Who?" I thrashed instinctively. But the man behind me anticipated the move, pinning my hands in place, then propelling us upward. We broke the surface. When I turned and saw his face, I gasped. "Liam? What are you doing here?" The corner of his mouth curved. His gaze sharp and unreadable, collecting what sewed to me. Of course. Still trembling, I was carried to the shore. A crowd had gathered, murmuring anxiously. After he brought me home, I burned with fever through the night. When Ethan came again, my father and younger brother met him at the door, iron shovels in hand. "My daughter is your fiancée, yet all you care about is your so-called savior?" Afon's mouth opened and closed, speechless. At that time, he stammered. "Lily's leg was injured. Ivy could swim. I didn't think." My brother's eyes were red as he grabbed Ethan's collar. "You didn't think? You knew how deep that pool was. If it weren't for Liam, my sister would be dead. You still have the nerve to show up. Go find your Lily. Get out. You're not welcome here." Ethan's composure finally cracked. "Ivy. I need to see Ivy." My brother spat at him. "My sister won't see you again. The engagement is off. You have no relationship with her anymore." Ethan visibly panicked. "It's impossible. Ivy will listen to me." "Step aside. Let me in to explain. I didn't mean to leave her. I know she can swim. She can hold her breath. Let me in. King Shan. I need to explain to Ivy." There was knocking outside, and more people gathered around. But I only felt irritated. I raised my hand, signaling Liam to help me out. When Ethan saw me, he first brightened, and quickly dropped his expression into a scowl. "Why is he in your room?" I sneered. "Just like you're in Lily's room. He's in mine." He froze. Then his face darkened. "Ivy, when did you become so disrespectful? Are you really going to be with him out of spite?" At this point, he still thought I was just throwing a tantrum, trying to get back at him. I walked up to my parents and kneeled, bowing my head. The people around were shocked. When I looked up, tears were streaming down my face. "Mom. Dad. On the day of our wedding, I thought abandoned me. When he came back, he was entangled with another woman. Even when Lily and I fell into the river, he gave up on me. He cannot tell right from wrong. He can't distinguish between inside and outside. And even if we get married now, it will never be right. Mom, Dad, I want to break off this engagement that Grandma arranged. Grandma and Ethan's grandmother were best friends, having survived the famine together. When their families had barely enough children left, they thought about making things closer by joining their families. Ethan's face turned as pale as a ghost. Ivy, you. My dad sighed. My daughter will never suffer like this. My dad picked up the iron cymbals that were by the door. With a sharp clap, it was followed by a loud bang, cracked. Ethan's previously stone-like face flickered with unease. The thunderous noise caused the whole village to gather. Ethan's mother tried to stop him. In-laws. In-laws. The two children have grown up together. Childhood sweethearts. What's the big deal? We can talk things over. Ethan's father also stepped in. Ethan is naive. I'll talk to him. But how can the bond between these two families be easily broken? Give me some face. My father swiped his hand away and continued to strike the cymbals. The village chief and the brigade leader arrived. The news about the wedding pause had already spread throughout the village. I took out the tokens that the two families had exchanged previously. Ethan still stood frozen in place, unable to believe I was really going to break off the engagement. But Ethan's parents clearly had no breath left to argue. Grandma was from an older generation, and when the engagement was arranged, she had even specially made a double swan pendant to bless her granddaughter with happiness for life. I took a deep breath. Grandma, love can cross mountains and seas. But people ultimately cannot. Lily, is Ethan here? Suddenly, two police officers arrived. The crowd gasped. In this era, people were still quite intimidated by uniformed officers. Seeing them, the crowd parted to make way. Ethan looked confused. What's going on? Lily also instinctively answered. The two police officers locked eyes. Someone reported that you forged acceptance letters and occupied another's college entrance exam results. Lily's face suddenly turned as pale as death. Who? Her eyes turned red, and she glared fiercely. It's you, isn't it? Ivy. Ethan, at this point, also looked at me suspiciously. Ivy, what's going on? I stared at him. Silent. He gritted his teeth, anxiously running his hand through his hair. Finally, heading so my and sigh. Frustrated, he said. Ivy is my lifesaver. I can't betray her. I coldly asked. So you gave her my acceptance letter? He sighed deeply. Ivy, is having me not enough for you? You gave up your chance for him. And I'll marry you. You don't have to work hard anymore. Just stay at home. I snorted coldly. At home. As someone with no degree, who can only look at others' faces, only keep their palms open, waiting for others to show they're unsophisticated at home, that we couldn't even have good conversations. The time we spent together became less and less. As his position rose, the wives of other men were all college classmates, head nurses, chief doctors, students of his, and daughters of leaders. He began to grow weary of the original wife who only had a high school education. I narrowed my eyes. Now you can give my acceptance letter to someone else. You still expect me to repay my savior, while you treat me like this. Is there any reason in the world for this? He fell silent. The police continued. And what about the robbery case on Yunshan Road 3 months ago? Was it planned by you? Ethan shouted. What? I sneered. 3 months ago, Ethan had been robbed on Yunshan Road. Lily had suddenly appeared, saving him like a hero and scaring away the robbers under the pretense of having already called the police. But she had also broken her leg in the process. The police continued. The criminals have confessed, and it was orchestrated by Lily. Ethan froze, sitting down on the ground, speechless. Lily, you? Lily shouted loudly. Ethan, it's not what you think. It was really me who saved you. Don't you remember? If I hadn't stepped out that day, you would have been stabbed to death by them. But now, Ethan clearly believed the two police officers more. His eyes were red, tears welling at the corners. As he looked at me, Ivy, let out a little sigh. I was deceived. Ivy, I'm sorry. Seeing this, Lily grabbed the officer's hands and screamed. You think he really wanted to repay me? You're smarter than him. Your grades are better. And he's afraid you'll leave him once you get into a better school. Do you know? It was his idea to swap the acceptance letters? My face turned pale. In my previous life, after marriage, I wanted to continue taking the college entrance exam. My in-laws thought that since I was married, I should quickly have children. It was Ethan who held my hand and said, Ivy, we're still young. There's no rush to have children. He shouldered the pressure from my in-laws. But when I took the college entrance exam again, a car ran into me, and he got injured while protecting me. I took him to the hospital and returned, only to miss the entry time. When I prepared to take the exam again the next year, I fainted from exhaustion from working and studying. A test revealed that I was already 1 month pregnant. At this point, my in-laws refused to let me continue studying. I was frustrated, but I never doubted Ethan. When I learned the truth, I almost couldn't stand. It was a chaotic moment. Liam helped me back to my room. A warm breath brushed against my ear as his voice murmured close. So that's why you didn't act? Even though you knew they were after your admission letter? The fever made my whole body feel weightless, as if floating. Yet I still forced myself to focus and answer him. Of course. After all, attempted and accomplished are two very different things. A bitter thought twisted in my chest. 60 years of pain and suffering in my previous life could never vanish just because I was reborn. When I opened my eyes again in this life, forgiveness was never part of my plan. But I had learned it from the past. In my previous life, I tried to stop Ethan at the wedding. Yet everything still spiraled beyond my control. So this time, I decided to play along with his game. Ethan wanted to wield his so-called debt of gratitude to morally bind me? Then I would add my own weight to that scale. Everyone knew he left our wedding to find Lily. His fiancée and her family stayed up all night waiting. If he broke off the engagement now, how could he possibly justify himself? I hadn't intended to push things this far. I wasn't afraid for myself. But in this village, gossip could kill faster than any poison. If this second chance meant I could protect my family and set things right, I would. That day, after Ethan left the wedding, I saw Liam standing not far from the door. Liam. I hadn't spoken much with him before. He'd come to our village with his grandfather for re-education. People treated them politely but kept their distance. In my previous life, after his grandfather passed away, Liam left for the south to start a business. And I never saw him again. This time, if I still couldn't read the turmoil and desire in his eyes, then my rebirth would have been for nothing. That night, I sent him to the provincial capital to find my uncle at the Public Security Bureau. He was to report alleged someone had stolen another's college entrance exam results and was impersonating the admitted student. Since the national exam had only recently been reinstated, the authorities were determined to make an example out of any fraud. That was exactly what I needed. I wasn't afraid of Lily getting my admission letter. In fact, I wanted her to. Attempted theft and successful theft, those are two different crimes. Soon after, both Lily and Ethan were arrested. I didn't look back. With my letter of admission in hand, I went north to attend the medical university I had dreamed of all my life. Liam accompanied me to register, then left to pursue business down south. Before he departed, he held my hand and said, Ivy, I know you haven't fully accepted me yet. But I'll wait for the day you truly love me. When he turned to go, something in me tightened. I wanted to do something, anything. So before anyone could see, I rose on tiptoe and pressed a kiss to his cheek. He froze, stunned, then stood there for a long time, fingers brushing his face, grinning like a fool. Not long after, my mother called in a panic. Ethan had gone missing after being released from the station. I didn't expect him to show up at the school gate. He looked disheveled, stubble shadowing his jaw, his once neat appearance in ruins. The moment he saw me, he rushed forward, eyes red. Ivy, I was wrong. I didn't know she was setting you up. I didn't know I'd hurt you so badly. I'm sorry. His voice trembled with remorse and desperation. Ivy. Please forgive me. I'll make it right. I swear I will. A dull heaviness filled my chest. Then his voice came again from outside my dorm. Sharp and pleading. Ivy, are you inside? Please open the door. Let me explain. His lips were pale. His words tumbling out as he staggered, muttering in disbelief. Ivy, you're lying, right? You can't really be with him. You always said you hated him. No. Ivy. What am I to you? How could you throw me away so easily? Tears slipped from his reddened eyes. Why won't you forgive me for one mistake? What about all our years together, what were they worth? I gave a cold laugh. What were they worth? Ethan, and Keithine. You mean nothing to me now. He stumbled backward. No, that's not true. It can't be. We grew up together. Ivy, we promised we'd always. I love you. I laughed outright. You love me? You gave my admission letter to Lily. You love me? You abandoned me on our wedding day and saved her first when I fell into the river. He grew frantic. No, that's not it, it's not what you think. Seeing the coldness in my face, guilt overtook him. His voice dropped to a near whisper. Trembling. Ivy, you still hate me, don't you? I know I was wrong. But I'll atone for it. Just wait for me. I'll prove it. He mumbled incoherently. Then suddenly turned and ran off. I stood there for a long while before returning to my dorm with my books in hand. Days later, my sister called. Rumors were spreading to the village. Ethan had reported Lily. In the investigation, Lily had tried to frame Ethan. But by then he had already discovered her scheme. How she had faked an accident to make herself look like a selfless savior. She failed to pin the crime on him. Though Ethan had been released on bail, he soon returned to the police, claiming to have evidence of more crimes committed by Lily's family. I checked the dates, it was right after he came to see me. He cooperated with the investigation, handing over proof that Lily's father had arranged for multiple students to cheat in the college entrance exam over the years. That reduced Ethan's sentence. But when he led the police to arrest them, Lily's relatives attacked him. He was slashed across the hand. When I heard the news, I froze. And when Ethan appeared before me, his hand bandaged, and knelt down, I was speechless. Ivy, he said, voice trembling. I've avenged you. Lily's family will never hurt you again. I looked at the wound on his hand in confusion. His breath quickened. Ivy, don't be sad. This is what I owe you, my penance. All this time, I've been drowning in regret. This scar will remind me every day of the pain I caused you. He grasped my hand, eyes burning. From now on, I'll never hurt you again. Ivy. He rushed towards me and held me tightly, his scorching breath washing over me. I pressed down on the wound he had already inflicted, the blood flowing uncontrollably, but he refused to let go. I shoved his hand away and angrily scolded. Ethan, are you crazy? He laughed out loud. After laughing, he fixed his gaze on me. Unwavering. Yeah, I'm crazy. I'm a fool. And I'm sorry. I'll let others hurt you. Ivy, give me another chance. I took a deep breath. Afon, you're crazy. But I'm not. I'm with Liam now. You. He panicked. Don't mention him. I fell silent. He stood up, clearly flustered. Ivy, look at me. He grabbed my shoulders. His voice filled with desperation. Ivy, I don't care. I don't care. As long as you come back. I don't care about anything you've done with him. I stared at him. But he held my hand and said, as long as you come back, I don't care about what you've done with him. Before he could finish, a hand suddenly appeared from my waist and yanked me backwards. Liam threw a punch. Get lost. When I saw him, I sighed with relief and smiled. How did you get here? Liam grinned. I missed you. So I came. With that, his gaze locked onto Ethan. Some people just don't know their place. Liam held my hand and comforted me. I turned to Ethan with a serious expression. Afon, Ethan. Don't come looking for me again. Our relationship ended the moment you left me on our wedding day. It's already over. He stood frozen. His eyes filled with despair. The forged college entrance exam documents were only a small part of the story. Lily's family was just a small cog in the wheel. Tracking the trail led to the unraveling of a massive black market network. In the first round of investigations, nearly 20 students had been found to have their identities swapped. By the time the semester started, a classmate from our major still showed up with their acceptance letter. He handed me some local specialties. His face flushed. Because of you, I found out I also got into university. I looked at his face, feeling a strange sense of familiarity. It wasn't until I walked into the library with a book in my arms that I realized. He was the protagonist of the famous college entrance exam replacement case from decades ago in my previous life. He didn't get into university, and due to family financial pressures, he had been working odd jobs. After struggling, he finally found a decent job, only to be fired for having too many children. When the case was solved, everyone found out that he had worked as a janitor in a hospital for over 20 years. His back hunched, his skin darkened, and his face covered in wrinkles. Meanwhile, the person who took his place at university had leveraged the advantages of the times and stayed at school to become a teacher. By the time the truth came to light, he was already 60 years old. How ironic. But this is where it ends. Looking back, the young man was still rushing towards the library, a big smile on his face when he saw me. So nice. It had only just begun. In this life, he would also become an outstanding doctor. My goals weren't lofty, and I never intended to make a big move with my rebirth. After 60 years of family life in my previous life, my character had already been set. I couldn't do the business of greeting and sending, the complicated social life. Rather than using my rebirth as an excuse to do something big, I wanted to fulfill my own wish and become a doctor. I conquered all difficulties in university and completed my major. After graduation, while many of my classmates accepted their assignments, I wanted to continue my studies. I applied for graduate school and eventually stayed in a top hospital as a doctor. Liam and I got married after graduating from university. After he moved south, his business grew bigger and bigger. During my second year of college, his clothing business started to take off. He invested all the money he earned and brought a few truckloads of goods from the south to sell. The innovative styles and low prices sold out instantly. Taking advantage of the momentum, he acquired a textile factory that couldn't pay wages and began producing clothes. Later, he smelled another business opportunity, hired several designers, and started his own brand. This was the beginning of his entrepreneurial journey. He sent me packages from the south every few days: food, clothes, everything. Even the dormitory aunt knew I had a clingy boyfriend. The night before the wedding, I received a package. Inside were wooden toys and some decorations, some of which seemed familiar. There was a letter. It was from Ethan. Since the last time I left, I've been thinking, if the replacement had never happened, what would your life have been like? If you had fallen into the water and Liam didn't save you in time, would you have just disappeared forever? Thinking about that, I was terrified. Ivy, I was wrong. I was ridiculously wrong. I have no face to see you again. I took out one of the intricately carved wooden bracelets. A memory from when I was 13 suddenly surfaced in my mind. Ethan must have heard somewhere that a bride should be given accessories. He went up the mountain to chop wood, and when he came down, he had hurt himself. His mother scolded him, but he didn't say why he secretly went up. 2 months later, he shyly shoved the bracelet into my hand. Just then, Liam appeared, his face dark with anger, startling me. How is it? Are you still thinking about your ex? I shook my head and smiled faintly. Not really. I'm just reflecting on how quickly time passes. Some people, as they walk along, end up on completely different paths. His heart softened. I'll always be with you. We'll be together. I set the wooden bracelet down, closed the package, and whispered, "Okay."